Hi, this is the audio clone of Mr. Von Neumann. In this tutorial, I'm going to take you through some trick techniques to get standard text extended and modified using shapes, adding and subtracting them, the transform tools, warping and distorting to modify your text into custom logos. So first, go ahead and open up a new file. I went with the transparent background for that new file. That's what I prefer, but if you're wanting a black background or white, go ahead and pick that. Go ahead and add your text that you're going to begin to modify. And before you add your text down, you will definitely want to, if you don't already have a background layer, go ahead and just call it your background. If you don't do this and you just lay your text into this one, it can cause a little bit of trouble. So it's better to have a background separate. And then go ahead and lay your text in. I am going to go with Magneto Bold. It'll work nice for what I'm thinking of here. So I'd like to do an extension and have it come down as like a V. I am going to actually do each word separately so you can manipulate it and customize it a little bit more. So I'll do the Von and then a Neumann. So each of these is now separate. So I've got the Von, that's a separate one. I'm clicking on and off the eye icon so you can see. And that will let you manipulate them a little bit better when you're dragging them around. Because I'm going to actually want to connect them in my little sample design here. So if you have them separate, it allows you to work them like that if that's what you want to do. Okay, so first, you may also want to thicken up your letters. You can do that with free transform. So you can no longer, once you've clicked the checkbox on your text, you're not going to be able to go back and change the font. So I used free transform, and then holding the shift key, dragging will let me keep it all in equal proportions, or if I wanted to, I could stretch it out in this way just by dropping down. Or you could thicken it up, whatever you wanted to do. So I'll do that with both of them. Okay, now you start with adding the shapes. So I'm going to go over here to the shapes. I'm going to go with ellipse. And I will start making my first curve over here off of this end. So I'm going to stretch it to about the size I want for my outer curve. So that'll be about right. Now bear with me here. We're going to use a lot of different shapes, and each shape will add together to the overall design, and then we'll add them and subtract them. And we don't merge until the very end. Once you merge, you can't continue to add and subtract shapes. So this shape, I'm not quite happy with it. I'm going to squash it just a little bit. So I'll go to Edit, Transform. Free Transform. There we go. Apply the transformation. Now I'm going to do a long, thin line. For that, I'm going to use the rectangle. And maybe make that just a little bit longer. I can just move it. Okay, and then now what I'm going to go ahead and do is make another ellipse into here so I can cut away from it. And I'll probably go ahead and make this ellipse in a different color so that I can see it better. And do the outside stroke as well. So the fill will be yellow and the stroke will be yellow. That is done. So now I can actually go ahead and slide it over a bit, and I'll use this to show you the first subtract. So all you're going to do is go to, you have to select, so hold shift and select both the ones that you want to cut away. So the ellipse, and let's double check by looking here, the ellipse and this ellipse is what I want to cut into. So I'm going to slide them up so they're under each other, and then press shift, have both of them selected, and I'm going to go to layers, combine shapes, and I'm going to subtract the front shape. There it is, except it made it yellow, which is not a problem. What it did was it combined those two ellipses and it just went with the color of the second ellipse and called it that. So we'll just change it back to black. The fill and the stroke. And I'm going to repeat that process several more times with small little rectangular pieces. I could go in with an eraser and erase to get rid of that curve there, but if I do that, it's probably going to be a little bit more imperfect than if I just lay a rectangle over it and just cut away. So I'll do another little tiny rectangle. I'm going to zoom in by doing Control plus so I can see a little bit better. And I'll do a small rectangle over the top here. And slide it to where I want it exactly. And if I want to, it's almost like a little surgery here. So if you want to be precise and see, you can go ahead, since it's black on black, that's going to be a little challenging. So like I said, change the color of it, or you could change the opacity of the layer underneath it. So slide it into position where you want it exactly. That's still a little too high. And here's another trick. Once you get to this point, using the mouse pad and the cursor is not accurate enough, so switch over to using the up and down on your keyboard, and it gives you a lot more precise control, because that's exactly where I want it, right there. And again, do the same process, shift and ellipse 2, and I might as well just actually go ahead and change that back to black, because we both know what's going to happen here. It's going to turn the whole thing yellow. Those are selected, and we'll do layers, combine shapes, subtract front shape, and there it is. And then I would go in at this point with the eraser, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. I could go in now with the eraser. Oh, and there might be a problem here. I might have actually not went with the most absolute black. So I might have had a lighter gray there. That'll mess it up a little bit. But at this point I can go in with the eraser tool. I can, it's going to force me, before I start erasing, it's going to force me to rasterize and merge all this together, which will make it where we cannot continue to subtract the shapes from it, so I don't want to do that. So the going in and erasing will be the last step that we do to clean up around some of these corners. So I'm going to continue subtracting several more shapes and pick back up with you in a minute or two. Okay, so now I have finished adding and subtracting shapes, and if you see what I've done here, there's actually going to be quite a few shapes that were used and all these little pieces. So what you want to do now is merge them all together. So we're going to shift and highlight those. And I'm going to actually get all of it. So the Von, the Newman, and all the shapes. And you go to Layers, and you go to Merge Layers. And now they're all merged into the one. And now I can start with the eraser work. So click on the eraser. And now I can start to I really only prefer using the erasers on the curved surfaces. On the flats, I really prefer to use the add and subtracting that we just did, because it gives you much straighter lines. The curves definitely are going to be more forgiving. If you go bracket, the curly brackets let you control the size of your eraser, so you can be more precise. And I'll go ahead and erase a little bit and pick back up with you. Now we'll control negative and zoom out and see what we have. So we've got a good basic extension. I'm going to still connect these. I'm going to extend this one out some more using the same ideas. And also I'll go ahead and erase some of the things I don't like. Like I definitely don't like the little curly Q here. Okay, so at this point I merged all my layers together, and now this image is all one complete image. I'm going to actually go ahead and File, Save it as, and make two versions of it and show you two different things we could do with the final shapes. So one thing we could try is you can go Edit and do Transform and either warp or skew and give it a nice little rake to it, a nice little slant. So you've got lots of different options in the transform. So experiment with it, play with it, see what you like. In the end, I went with skew and grabbed it in the middle and just slid it over a little bit to give it a nice little rake. So that's one option. Just press return and save. And here's another option by, again, adding more shapes. This time I'll use a polygon, and we'll make it a three-sided polygon. We can give a nice tail to this curve that we have here, and go back up to Transform, Distort, and this will let you change that polygon into, or whatever shape you have, into whatever it is you want. In this case, I wanted a nice, I was hoping to get a V, somewhat of a V, down here on the bottom of the tail. So it seems to be just about what I want right there. And again, it could be for you, it could be any shape that you need or want in your design. You could have went up to a custom shape, taken a star, put a star here, you could put a palm tree, anything. In the end, we'll just merge it all together. So let's apply this. So in the end, go ahead and hold Shift down and do your final merge of your layers. And now your whole entire custom piece of lettering is done, and you can apply, at this point, you can now apply whatever effects you want, like any beveling or embossing to it, and it will take action on the whole entire piece of art. So whatever effect you want to add, you could add it, and you could still do some more eraser work, clean up a few of the little edges, but that's the basic idea to adding and subtracting shapes to build your custom logo. Hope that was helpful. Good luck.